Hey, can I give you 4 tips for making offers on rural real estate? As a broker, we have a lot of offers that's come across my desk. I've been involved with a lot of them personally, and then I've seen so many more from all of our agents over the years and learned 1 or 2 things. I want to pass those along to you as just simple tips. Tip number 1, be sure to know the property you're looking to buy. You say, Pat, that's a silly thing. Why would I not know the property I'm looking to buy? I'm interested in buying it. Of course I know the property. No, you may not. Anyway, a lot of people we've dealt with, they want to make an offer based on what they've seen on the internet, or based on what they've seen in a few pictures, or based on a social media post. And have never looked at the property. They've never been on the property. They've not asked enough detailed, specific questions to understand some of the nuance of a property. So know the property you're interested in, because it will help you in determining a value. And this is part of what I'll talk about here in step number 2. And also knowing what you're going to do with the property and how much it'll cost you to make the improvements you want to make and to do the things you envision doing. You've got to get boots on the ground most of the time to know exactly what you're dealing with, or at least have someone look at it for you. I've had that happen a number of times where a long distance client is buying a property and he sends a forester to go look at it. He sends a friend he's got in the area. Anyway, he's gathering enough information that he can then proceed knowledgeably, as opposed to just willy-nilly trying to buy something long distance over the internet. Number 2, have a plan. Once you've understood the property, once you know what you want to do, once you understand all the details about a tract, put together a plan. It may take 5 minutes, it may take several weeks, depending on the scope of the deal and depending on what you're wanting to do with it. But go into your offer before anybody even knows you're interested. Go into it knowing what you'll pay for it. Have a general idea of where you're going to hit the wall on the total purchase price or the price per acre. Have that in mind. Back up a little bit and kind of put together your plan for negotiation. You're going to have to negotiate this deal whether you like it or not. A lot of people don't like all of the back and forth, and I get that, but it's part of it, so you might as well make a plan to deal with it in the best way possible. Know what your top price is, or at least real close to what your top price is. Say it's, $1,900 an acre is your top price that you're going to pay for this particular little timber tract out here. Find a place that you'll jump into the deal. You're going to start the offer at $1,675 an acre, or $1,600, or $1,650, or $1,590. I don't know, pick a number, a reasonable number to start the process. Make a plan so that when the seller does counter with something, you understand enough about the deal and you've already thought it through in advance that you can move forward. You can counter back. So make that offer. And I want to put this little thought in your mind right here too. We deal with people that make unreasonable lowball offers. And the reason they do that is because it worked one time in their life, or they have a friend that it worked and now that's his personal go-to, buying strategy. Let's just say that tract, your top dollar was $1,900 an acre that you'll pay. Well, they're going to go in there and offer $1,100. Well, come on. The seller's just going to look at that and go, this guy's not serious, and poo-poo it 99 times out of 100. Now, every once in a while, lightning will strike and you'll get lucky with that lowball offer and you'll think you've discovered the negotiating strategy of the ages. No, you haven't. You got lucky one time. You'll miss more deals than you get because of that. So what I encourage you to do is you figure out your top end dollar first, and then come down here to a lower offer, but a reasonable offer, something that's in the general vicinity, so that at least the seller will engage you as a serious buyer and hopefully make a counter offer that will get the ball moving so that you can work toward buying that property at your dollar amount up here, or even below that would be even better. But you can't make any of that happen if you throw out some ridiculous lowball offer and then expect the seller to jump in and go, yeah, please, let me give my property away to you. Come on, make a reasonable plan and then be prepared for a counter offer, and then you be prepared with your counter in response to that. Hey, number 3 has to do with closing costs. It has to do with as a part of your offer, and you want to use not only the purchase price as part of your negotiating strategy, but closing costs as well. And that happens a lot, especially in residential properties where there's a lot of negotiating and back and forth on closing costs. People do that in real estate as well, but they get a little confused, and then they end up making an offer that's kind of silly. I got an offer like that a week or so ago. I made a little short video that we used on some social posts, and I want to play it for you right here. This is what I mean about asking sellers to pay closing costs. Take a look. Hey, I just got a second offer where the buyer, in part of his offer and negotiation, said that the seller pay all the closing costs. Folks just can't do that or just throw that out there like that. There's got to be detail in it. Closing, that's a open-ended blank check, and I don't advise any of my clients to accept a deal where the buyer says, and you pay all the closing costs. Well, he may very well be willing to pay some, but what are they? You got to enumerate them and list them out. Because if it's a cash deal versus a finance deal, the closing costs are completely different. A finance deal, there's going to be all kind of lender associated fees. You got the mortgage, potential appraisal. You got all of this stuff, and a seller just saying willy-nilly, yeah, I'll pay all your closing costs. He doesn't know what he's paying for. So if you're going to make an offer and you're asking the seller to pay all the closing costs, be wise enough on the front end so you don't get embarrassed later to enumerate what those costs are that you want the seller to pay for, because that's a blank check and nobody's going to just sign off on that. So if you're not sure, ask your agent some questions before you just throw that out there. It'll help in your negotiation. So as you can see, that wasn't going to go anywhere like that. When you ask a seller to help you in the deal some way, you need to think it through. You need to put yourself in the seller's position and hear what you're about to ask and say, is that reasonable? Does that make sense? Is that clear? Is that something that I would consider as a seller if I were in his shoes? And if it's not, you need to maybe change the way you say it just a little bit. But don't be afraid to ask for things like that in your offer. Just think it through. Be reasonable. Put yourself in the other person's shoes so that you can see how it could be received, to know how good a chance you have of getting that done. Hey, number 4, make your offers reasonable. And what I mean by that is, sure, yeah, you want to buy it for the lowest price possible, and I want you to get it for the best price you can. But your offer needs to be reasonable. It needs to be something that's manageable for the seller. It needs to be simple and as clean as you can make it without putting a lot of extra demands on the seller. For instance, you've negotiated a price and he's come down on that price. And sometimes sellers feel really just frazzled and worn out in the negotiating process. And they've worked and they finally agreed on a price down here that you've pushed them for, and they're good with that. And then you're asking for X and Y and Z and this and that and the other. You got to stop all that nonsense. Make the offer as simple as you can. Now, I know you got to ask for things in a deal to make it work for you. But again, stop and think. Are you asking because it's absolutely necessary in the deal? Or are you just asking because you just want more and more and more and more? Are you asking to be obnoxious, or are you asking out of need? Think about that for just a minute, because the easier you can make the deal for the seller, the better chance you have of getting the deal done. And you don't have to push and win on every single ridiculous, obnoxious point to get a win-win deal. Figure out what works for you. Try to frame it in the most palatable way possible for the seller, the most convenient way possible for the seller, and then put that out there. You're not giving up anything. You're just framing it, you're presenting it in a way that's going to be easier, more workable for the seller to accommodate you. You're probably not like this, but we get guys that call every once in a while, people that call and want to buy property, and they're bullies. They're just straight up obnoxious bullies. They think that they can come in and ramrod and push and demand as if they're entitled things from the seller, and then they expect the seller to work with them, or they expect us to negotiate hard on their behalf. Well, No, you can't just come in and be a bully and expect everybody just to bend over just because you happen to be in the market to buy something. There are other people that are going to buy. There are other people in the market as well. You get a lot more action, a better reception from your land agents and from the sellers when you just come in and approach things in a kind, hey, let's work together, win-win sort of way, as opposed to these folks that are just bullies and they're all about win-loss. They're about conquering the deal as opposed to finding a deal that works for everybody. Yeah, occasionally the bully will get his way. That's why he's a bully, because he got away with it a time or two. But most of the time, you're just going to get punched in the nose. Figuratively, that's what we're talking about here, where people just shut you out and say, no, thank you, go away. And you're going to miss deals by being a bully, by being a ramrod. You can get everything you want in a deal and still be kind, still be professional, still approach things in a way where you're wanting to work with somebody as opposed to just run over somebody. So thanks for watching our videos. There's some more right there. Check them out.